Hey friends, I just wanted to pop in here because I am hiding from my kids. They are playing nicely with Magnum tiles and singing music from Frozen 2. And I just wanted to share a little pep talk for myself and all of you out there who are spending a lot more time at home with your kids than you're used to. We have run into a lot of these problems this week, so I'm speaking from experience. And I just had to remind myself that I am a person with 10 years of experience working with small children, and I have skills. So anyway, here's my list. Whoop, that's too close. All right, so here's some things just to sort of keep in mind for staying sane, managing behavior and feelings, and this is my pep talk for myself this week. So hopefully you'll find it valuable for you too. All right, so my first tip is if you're having trouble getting your kid to do something, like yesterday we got into a little bit of a power struggle over whether or not we wash our hands before we eat. And my husband was about to go into like an explanation of germ theory and pandemics. Instead, had a little moment where we remembered, hey, your preschool teacher, Miss Kathy, would have wanted you always wash your hands before you eat lunch at preschool, right? Or at school, we call it school. And she was like, oh yeah. And so just kind of invoking the name of a beloved teacher or coach can be really valuable, especially with younger kids, to be like, hey, this is one of those things that Miss Kathy would have asked you to do. Can you do that? So that is a thing. Now I would just say, like, kind of try to invoke just as someone who has been invoked before. I would always encourage you to invoke that person in a positive way. They would be really proud of you for doing that, instead of saying, well, I'm going to tell Miss Kathy on you. Try not to do that, because like I said, it's hard to be on the other end of that kind of thing. So there's that. Second is just making sure if your kids are playing nicely, like my kids are playing nicely right now, I'm going to go tell them what a great job they're doing, because sometimes when we're together all the time, and especially if you're like suddenly homeschooling, you can kind of get into a place where you're criticizing your kid all the time, or telling them, oh, well, that answer's not right, you're not working hard, blah, blah, blah. You can just kind of feel like you're nagging all the time. So just make sure that you keep that like balance of like positive and maybe less positive interactions. At least, well, you really want it to be mostly positive. So whenever you see your child doing, oh, thank you so much for cleaning up your dishes without being reminded. Thank you. Oh, I love how you're playing so nicely together. Try to incorporate some of those positive observations into your language, so that it just kind of creates a more light and positive atmosphere in your house. And again, I'm only saying this because I have not done it a couple times this week, and it's like, oh, I see where we're heading. So keep that positive. The third thing that I really realized, this one the hard way, is even though we're all together all the time, if you have more than one kid, try to make sure you have one-on-one time with each of them. So again, because you can feel like you're spending all the time with your family, but they may just really need that focused one-on-one time where it's just them. So that can be really useful just to think about with all of your people and yourself. I woke up early this morning to go for a walk because I hadn't had any time with me, and I like hanging out with myself. Now, 4 is also something we realized in my house yesterday, is just kind of make space for your kids to feel their own disappointments about being stuck at home with this COVID-19 thing. Sure, there's a lot of like little losses that we're all experiencing, but they can feel like a lot. Yesterday my daughter had to have a big cry because she was really looking forward to this field trip to the bowling alley that she was going to do on April 16th, and she just realized that that's not going to happen, and it's really disappointing. And I'm sure that you were looking forward to things. I was really looking forward to this week is our spring break. So in our karate school, we were going to have classes, and we were going to break boards for spring break. And so I have this like boxes of wooden boards that we were going to break. That'll just have to wait for another day. So anyway, and those are just all really disappointing things. And, in the grand scheme of things, obviously our neighbors and our immune-compromised friends and our senior citizens, like our health system, this is all worth the sacrifice. but it's important to acknowledge that it's a real sacrifice, and that we're all going to feel that. So just try to make space for all those feelings for yourself, and just recognize that your kids are going to have those feelings too. Sometimes we try to tell them to like suck it up or anything like that, but they're going to be having those feelings too, without maybe as much cognitive space to understand like that the greater good really is worth it here. And then just another tip is, in that same spirit, is try to avoid taking anything else away from them. I know that as a lot of parents, just sometimes you're like, look, if you don't clean up your room, I'm going to throw your stuff away. Or, look, you can't play video games for the rest of the week. Or, I know in moments of weakness, I have made some great grand pronouncements. I'm going to throw away the movie, but try to avoid that if you can. Or if you do say like, I'm going to get rid of that, or you're not going to be able to do that anymore, or take away their phone or their computer or something like that, try to like walk that back in maybe a reasonable way. I think you should definitely have limits with your kids, limits on their screen time, limits on whatever. Limits are very important. But maybe just be when we want to be disciplining or teaching our kids, try to avoid maybe taking anything else away because it's hard for them too. And then I just also want to just kind of keep some faith that there will be positive things to come from this. I was listening to Seth Godin. He did a live video on Instagram earlier today. And he was like, somebody was like, oh, what do we do till things go back to normal? And I thought he said something that was very true and that I'm going to remember, which is that there's no going back to normal. Like there's going to be a new normal. There's going to be a different normal, but like this is a crazy worldwide thing. And there's just going to be a new normal. Maybe we won't all be locked in our houses forever. But the world after this is going to be different, and we're all going to learn how to deal with it together. And hopefully there'll be some good things. And I think as long as we stay grounded in our values and our kindness, and some of those positive virtues, that this new world can be even better, hopefully kinder, hopefully gentler, hopefully with, more healthcare resources for everybody. So something I'm just going to try to keep, not necessarily going to hope that it's going to be over faster or anything like that. Just we're in this for the long haul, and we're in this together, and we can all do something that matters, even if it's not seeing anybody. And then there's just a couple of other little family rules that we are developing. We've been trying really hard to figure out a schedule because kids do work better with a schedule. But the schedule that we originally came up with was totally unrealistic. And so we had to kind of throw it out the window on Monday. But we're trying again. We're just going to make it a little bit better every day, a little bit more realistic, trying to keep those expectations really low. Whatever you think you can accomplish in a day, probably pick 2 things from whatever that list was, and that's going to be what you actually accomplish. So just give yourself more time, because apparently we've all got a lot of it. So there's that. Kind of have a schedule, but hold that schedule with an open hand, because it might just fly away. But there's 2 things. There's 3 things that we're trying to do every day in our house. One is in the morning, we get dressed. We do that. We get dressed. And then second is at the end of the day, we brush our teeth, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but like I can face anything with clean teeth. I don't know. It's just a little bit easier when you have a clean mouth. And then the last thing is we try to make our beds every day, because there's a great graduation speech somewhere about where some guy makes a big thing about making your bed. And I totally believe it, that like whatever happens in the day, it is just nicer to go to bed in a bed that has been made. So those are my tips for you. And I wish you guys well. I hope you are safe. I hope you are healthy. And if you are here on our YouTube channel, I will be posting another Get Your Wiggles Out video today. Hopefully, if we can get up to 1,000 subscribers, which would be so great, I can do those live here at 3 o'clock every day from 3 to 3:15. Otherwise, it's just however long YouTube takes to load it after I filmed it. So guys, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for following us on YouTube, and stay well out there.